Good afternoon. Today we are privileged to have Professor Ramesh Siggaur with us today for leading the session on research misconduct. Professor Gaur is a, uh, let me give me a minute, please. Professor Gaur, he is a he is Dean and Director of Library Information and Head Kalanidhi Division at Indira Gandhi National Center for Arts, and which is an autonomous institution under Ministry of Culture, Government of India, New Delhi. Prior to joining this IGNCA, he was associated with Jawaharlal Nehru University as University Librarian, and he headed Kalakosa Division at IGNCA. And he was director of National Mission for Manuscripts, which was known as NAMAMI. And before that, he worked at TAFR, CSIR, CRRI, then Management Development Institute and Institute of Management and Technology, Ghaziabad. He is also a member of International Advisory Committee of UNESCO Memory of the World Project, IFLA Governing Council of INFLIBET, NDLTD, etc. And for remarkably, he was a member of MHRD Committee for drafting of UGC Promotion of Academic Integrity and Prevention of Plagiarism in Higher Education Institutions Regulations 2018. And as you can see on the screen now, this is the first page of that regulation. And as you can see on it, in its fifth paragraph, you can see include elements of responsible conduct of research and publication ethics as a compulsory course work module for masters and research scholars. And that is why most of you are here because of this regulation. And as such, thus Professor Ramesh Gaur is one of the causes of this course itself, and I welcome on behalf of St. Thomas College and all research scholars of this course, I welcome Professor Gaur and invite him to deliver this session. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Sanju, for your kind words. I'm glad and I'm happy to be with you. So let me share my screen and then I will start talking about the today's topic, and just give me a few minutes where I can share the screen. So hope you can see my screen. Sanju, can you confirm?
Yes, sir. We can see. We can see it, sir.
Okay. So shall I start?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. So welcome all researcher, faculty members, and students for this talk. I will be trying to give you some ideas how to enhance the quality of research writings by avoiding plagiarism, and how to publish your quality research in quality publication, quality journal, how to choose journals, what are the criteria, and what are the various kind of research and publication ethics. So basically, starting from this problem formulation to designing of research questions, designing of research questionnaire, doing survey, collecting metadata, collecting data, and then arranging the data, analyzing the data, and then writing a research report. At every point, you need certain moral and ethical guidelines to be followed. These are some international conventions. There are some practices which need to be followed. So all these things in this component of various components of research process is a part of academic integrity. In that academic integrity, we have different types of research ethics and research and publication ethics, specifically regarding writing and publishing. So basically, apart from what Sanjo has just told you, I'm conducting 2 courses on research methodology and research and publication ethics at IGNC. As a dean, I'm responsible for 9 PG diploma courses and 7 certificate courses, and digital library, data management, and research publication ethics and research methodology and manuscriptology and paleography are these courses which I have designed, and I'm the course director for that. So before talking further on the topic, let me just bring your attention to certain UGC regulations. The first regulation came in 2009, where it was made mandatory that all theses and dissertations awarded by any university should be uploaded in a central repository called Sodhganga within 30 days of award of the degree. So in that context, you should be aware that your PhD thesis will be uploaded on Sodhganga if it is not done. If it is already done, then it's not a problem. But those who are continuing research now, so your thesis will be available under open access. Anybody can see it. So that is the first regulation. Although before that, there was some UGC guideline in 2005 for electronic thesis and dissertation. I was part of that also. Then the next thing comes is this UGC promotion of academic integrity and prevention of plagiarism in higher education institutions, regulation 2018. It was implemented from 31st July 2018. As Sanju had mentioned you, I was the member of the draft committee. So now there are certain kind of mandatory things in this regulation. I will just speak to you on that. And then there was announcement of this course. In these regulations, as Dr. Josh has shown you, it was mentioned that every university should have a course in research and publication ethics. Finally, UGC approved this course contents in December 2019. So now for every PhD student, it is mandatory that they have to complete 2 credit PhD, 2 credit coursework for PhD on research and publication ethics. Now, another things comes in this is that's clarification on self-plagiarism, which was some people believe that self-plagiarism is not an offense, but it was clarified by the UGC that self-plagiarism is also an offense. So these are the, apart from that, there is another regulation, UGC CARE list. University Grant Commission Consortium for Academic and Research Ethics. We call it UGC CARE list. It is a reference list of quality journals, which I believe you have been already explained about it. So in that list, it is mandatory that you can submit articles only in these journals. You cannot publish any article in journals other than what listed in UGC CARE list. So this list has 2 categories, Group 1 and Group 2. Group 2 is all about journals indexed in Scopus, Web of Science. And Group 1 is journals which are not indexed in international indexing databases, Scopus and Web of Science, but are important journals in art, humanities, social sciences, and other areas. So these are the 2 groups, and you have to publish your article in those 2 journals in that list. So the most important thing based on the plagiarism regulation 2018 that every university should have a plagiarism policy, because these promotion of academic integrity and prevention of plagiarism in higher education institutions were basic guidelines. Based on these guidelines, every university has to make a plagiarism policy. So, what these guidelines are all about? It guidelines define what are the. It is meant only for masters and PhD student. It is not applicable to like those below masters, uh, and also it is applicable to all teachers, researchers, staff of higher education institutions. And there is some definition of terminology given in this introduction section. Now there is awareness and training. See, there are a lot of awareness and training is required. Awareness about plagiarism, what is plagiarism, how to detect it, how to avoid it, what are the different types of plagiarism, what are the consequences of plagiarism. So there is awareness is required on this particular topic. Then also a training required. Training in various tools and technologies like plagiarism detection tools like Turnitin, Authenticate or Urkund, reference management tools like Mendeley, EndNote, Zotero, data analytical tools like SPSS, R softwares. So you need to have training in these areas. And that awareness and training is strictly the responsibility of the university library, because library is considered a domain expertise in this area, and I'm glad that Dr. Josh has taken up it is very beautifully, and he is organizing this training program. Then curbing plagiarism. How to curb the plagiarism? First is by providing detection tools, so people should not commit mistakes. By making different kind of policies, by providing a good detection software. Like, in my opinion, Turnitin, Authenticate, and Urkund are the best software in this currently used in India. So either of these three software, you should have access to that. I always recommend for university, Turnitin is the best. But if you don't have, then Urkund. So you should have a detection software. So this policy has not named any software, but they have recommended every university should have a good quality software to detect plagiarism. Then also it is mandatory for every university to constitute two academic integrity panel. So departmental level integrity panel, institutional level integrity panel. Like in a college, there will be a mathematics department. So there should be a departmental level integrity panel, academic integrity panel. Similarly, chemistry, physics, whatever departments are there. And then there will be a college level academic integrity panel. Similarly, in university, there should be a university level panel, and department level should be like School of Social Sciences, School of Physical Sciences, because the bigger is the organization, bigger is the department. So these two academic integrity panel are mandatory, because and departmental level integrity panel is supposed to investigate the matter, and institutional level panel is to decide on the penalties or punishment or any kind of warning. One thing also I will tell you that there are different kind of roles and responsibility and composition of departmental and institutional level penalties. Integrity panel has been laid down in that policy. Now penalties, what are the penalties? According to the various kind of offenses, level of similarities, like plagiarism is defined in terms of percentage of similarities. How much similarities are there in your content with the internet on the web? So similarities up to 10% are excluded from any kind of punishment. But it doesn't mean that you copy 10% text from any book and make it 10%. 10% similarity means coincidental common knowledge or something which is unavoidable. Like similarities in terms of same materials and methods or scope or something like that. So there are certain areas like recommendation, conclusions, those called kind of core subject areas. No similarities are allowed. And if you have any case similarities up to level 1 is 10 to 40% similarities, level 2 40 to 60%, and level 3 60% and above. So based on that, there is a different kind of Penalties. First time offense, there is a less penalty. Second, repeatable offense, there is a more penalties. And penalties are there for both students and faculty. So it is important for every university to really understand this. And this policy is applicable from 31st July 2018. It is up to the university to take action prior to that on the basis of this policy or any other policy. There is no binding on that. So the decision can be taken by forming a small committee or some. So this is something about this academic integrity panel regulations, academic integrity and prevention of plagiarism, higher education institution. Rest, if you have any further question, I will take up in the question answer session. This is the repository I was talking as per the 2009 regulations. You have to submit your electronic thesis to your library, and your library will provide it to Sodh Ganga for further submission as per an agreement between your university and the implement. And many times you want to know international thesis. This is an additional slide I am providing you. So this will basically provide you an additional slide about international thesis. This is a platform where international theses are available. So I hope that you will, if you want to search any international thesis, you can search on this. This is Global ET Research. It is developed by a network digital library of thesis and dissertation. I am one of the board of director of this, and this 60 lakh theses are from different organizations all over the world. So now that was the first part of my presentation. In this, I have tried to introduce you various UGC regulations and what implications of these regulations on your research or research thesis. Now, give you some idea about research done in India. This was a news item published on behalf of Mr. Narayan Murthy some time back, that in the 1980s, India was among the top 10 countries in the world producing original research. We slipped to position number 12 in 1990s. And in the first decade of the new millennium, its position further slipped alarmingly to below 20. So research was no longer seen as a prestigious career option because India has failed to provide adequate encouragement, incentive and appreciation for students to get research aid. Somehow it is true also. Let me just give you another information. In 2009, India was at the number 11 position in terms of number of articles published, paper published, research published, research output. In 2015, we moved to number 5 position, and we are still holding number 5 position. Now China has superseded US. It is number 1. So China, which was at number 7, has moved to number 1. And from 11 position, we have moved to only 5 positions. So China has remarkably done well in terms of research output. But here I want to tell you something else. So we have good reputation in terms of number of research, means quantity, but we are lacking in the quality. So most important thing you remember, it is not important how many papers you have published. It is important how many quality papers you have published. And what should be the quality of your research? So always focus on quality, not on the quantity. Now, third important thing which I want to talk to you regarding is this role of library in research. Surprisingly, even new education policy is silent on role of libraries in research. It should talk about it. My opinion, no research, no academic activities are possible without libraries. This teaching, learning, research. It is impossible to do this without good library facilities. starting from the problem formulation to literature review, then data collection, data analysis, every point of time until writing a research, every place you need library. And even for dissemination of your result, promotion of your research, you need library help. So library is an integral part of research. And now with e-resources, this research output has been increasing because now access has reached to the even the rural areas, into the far areas, which was not the case earlier. And I can show you this slide. This is an old slide, but it's still relevant. Left side is the top 10 university in terms of research output, and right side is the top 10 university number of articles downloaded, paper read. So if you see the comparison, there is a very good correlation between this number of articles downloaded and number of papers published. Means you read more, you publish more. So there is a big correlation between read and publish. So library has its importance, reading has its importance, learning has its importance because of library, right? So please keep a note, and if you don't have good library support, ask for it. Many times I see that students, research scholar, and even faculty never raise voice against poor management of library or poor resources in the library. You should. You are one of the most active user and customer of the library. Okay. So now let's move to guide to research. So research is the search for new knowledge, and it is thus distinct from the routine applications of known result. The re in research is a misnomer. So hence the search become very, very important. So the search in research is basically search is in the human knowledge by discovering, inventing, or creating what is previously unknown. By searching again and again, you come to the new discovery. But when you search, how you search nowadays? All are doing search on internet, on searching web, OPAC, online databases, and all those things. So what is happening? You are searching on Google, you are asking for one result, and billions of results are coming. So searchers nowadays are very much frustrated because they don't want so many searches. They want relevant information. They want most accurate and most appropriate information. And when you do research, finding a suitable reference or resources is always a challenge. And it is more challenging now with such a huge internet, huge worldwide map. Sometimes it looks like an impossible task. So how to make this impossible task an easy task? That you should know what to search, how to search, what not to search, where to search, when to search. And all these things, your librarians can guide you very well. Whatever we search, where we go to various kind of standard search engine like Google, Yahoo, AltaVista, etc. But do you know certain facts about these search engines? Google or any standard search engines provide access to just 15 to 20% web contents because it doesn't index rest of the 80 to 85% contents. Point number one. Point number two, Google or any standard search engine does not certify the authenticity of the information, like what results you have searched, what resources you have searched on internet. Is it genuine? It is fake? It is disinformation? It's misinformation? Google or any other standard search engine will never tell you. Point number three. While searching on Google or any standard search engine, you may not get most relevant results higher up in relevancy ranking. Like what result you want may not be the first result. Like, see the example. I was searching top open access journal, and result was top best open access journal Omics International. Means I want the best open access journal, and Google is telling me the number one result is a predatory journal, predatory publisher. Omics is a Hyderabad-based predatory publisher. So how can you use the first result, which is not relevant to you? Another important thing, how to deal with this information overload. This large web, the information available in web is so huge. Now, how to basically access it? Now, many people have started believing this internet is having so many things. What is the need of the library? My answer to those library illiterates or the digitally illiterate people is this: internet is not a substitute for library, not even substitute for digital library. It can never be a substitute for library, because library provide you most authenticated and most peer reviewed and valuable selected resources, which Google can never give you, any internet source can never give. So libraries are relevant, were relevant, and will always remain relevant for research and good quality academics. This internet is divided into three major components. Surface web, which you can search through Google. Deep web, which you cannot search through any standard search engines. Dark web, which is having some kind of restricted access. So this deep web, which is a very large part of the web, contains a lot of academic information and government data or a lot of free open access resources. So this deep web size is very, very huge. It contains currently over 600 billion records. And one more important thing about deep web is that it is publicly accessible, meaning no fees or subscription. So if such a large amount of information is available free, how to search that information, how to look for that information? So because there are many things which are not available in your library, so how to go for these important resources which are not available at your library? So this deep web is very much searchable. There are different kind of meta search engines. There are different kind of academic search engines. Now in this complexity of information overload, even libraries need to integrate this entire all databases, BabOpac, Thesis to provide a web scale discovery services. Now time has gone when every link users has to go for every link. So by integrating all the resources, library also should provide this kind of single window search. Like you type a keywords, you can know what are the journals published by various journals publishers, Taylor, Francis, Elsevier, Singer. What are the books available in the library? What are the theses available in the library? What are the news clipping available? What are the other monographs or journals available in your library? So everything should be accessible on a single window search, both electronic resources as well as offline resources. Details about the offline resources. So the deep web which I was talking to you, so one is that what is important for researchers and libraries to work together. First is to create a single window search, and second is to provide access to and knowledge about various deep search engines. These deep web search engines are in various categories according to the subject discipline. These are semantic search tools and databases, meta search engines like Academic Index, general search engines and databases like Oyster, academic search engines and databases like Google, Scholar. Scientific search engine databases like GoPubMed. Collaborative information in databases like Delicious. Open access search engine like Core or directory of open access journals or directory of open access books, etc. OSP or OSPA or something like that. So, as a researcher, you need to be a good searcher. And who is the person who will make you good searcher? That is the library. So here comes the role of again library to help researcher in becoming a good searcher. I can tell you, if you know how to search, how to find out the most valuable research resources for your research, you can do quality research. So this is the another part of my presentation, and I hope you will enjoy it. Now let's move to the purpose of the research. What is the purpose of the research? Why do we do the research? To contribute to or extend knowledge. How do we do this? By building on the work of others. And there is no problem in referring or reading or learning anything from any publication or any resource. The issue comes when we are reporting our research in form of a thesis or a dissertation or a paper or a book or a monograph. So when we are reporting our research, we are expected to place our research in the right context to show that we are aware of what else is happening by reading existing knowledge. To show that we understand where our work fits, like how to integrate your ideas and the ideas available in the reference resources. So the research writing should be analysis of similar and relevant work as well as your own ideas. And when you are writing it, you have to follow certain guidelines. And what are these guidelines? Your report, when you write, should be having a kind of clear-cut distinctions between what is your own original work, what is your opinion about the work of others, about the claims of others you are reporting, and what is actually said by others. Verbatim means quotation. And this work can be ideas, description, research, data, opinions, picture, figures, table, etc. So it is important for you to understand that when you are writing, you have to make a distinction between your ideas and the ideas borrowed from other sources. And why it is important? This is important that your reader, examiner, the referee, the supervisor, the reviewer must understand difference between your own work, your opinions of the work of others and the verbatim work of others. If you are unable to make that distinction, you are committing an error. Fine. And that error is considered some kind of research misconduct or violation of certain ethical research rules. So you have to really understand what are these violations, what are these research misconduct, what are the various kind of such rules which are not known to you. So these research rules are concerning various kind of process of research, and it is important for a researcher to learn how to interpret, how to assess and apply various research rules, and how to follow those ethical decision makings. So the vast majority of decisions involve the straightforward applications of ethical rules. And what are these ethical rules? These are also called research ethics. And broadly, this ordained honest adherence to relevant ethical, disciplinary and financial standard in the promotion, design, conduct, evaluation and sharing of research is called research or academic integrity. And what are these ethics in research? Honesty in doing research, honesty in writing research, honesty in data collection, honesty is in data analysis, honesty. So honesty at different levels, objectivity to your research integrity, carefulness about research process, openness about your research writings, research domain, reliability, how reliable is your research, fairness is doing research, respect for intellectual property rights, copyright and other rights, must use robust research methodologies. There are different processes in research methodology. How to maintain confidentiality of the research of the respondent, and also for the funder, or different confidentialities are required. How to bring out a responsible publication. Even for supervisor, how to do responsible mentorship, supervisorship. How you are giving respect to colleagues in the research process. How socially responsible you are, like currently China is being blamed for corona. Suppose in case if it has been done by the corona, it means it is something very irresponsibility to the society by putting entire world on this havoc. Competence, legality, legal issues, taking care of animal and human subject in doing research. So these are the various kind of research ethics, but here in this particular course or in this subject, you are considered about research and publication ethics. What are these research and publication ethics? These are research misconducts or scientific misconduct, means data errors, falsification, fabrication, plagiarism, or authorship, collaborative partnership, conflict of interest, license permission, image manipulation, defamation, animal subject research, human subject research. All these issues, even obtaining consent and confidentiality, all these while writing research or publishing research. Research publication ethics in two things only: writing and publishing research. It has nothing to do with the entire spectrum of the research ethics. So they are specifically focused. So these are a set of common rules. Set of common rules among authors, editors, reviewers, and publishers to protect integrity of the scientific records. Means while doing research, you have to follow certain guidelines, for certain rules, and these should be based on consensus about the standards and best practices. These should ensure the integrity of the scientific records. These should ensure that readers can trust what they read. They should trust you what they read. So by following all these rules, common practices, ethical guidelines, you have to follow all these. So this is research and publication ethics. Now in this category, the first thing is the plagiarism. Plagiarism in research. What is this plagiarism in research? It's a kind of misconduct. Means fabrication, falsification, or any other practice that seriously deviates from practices commonly accepted in the discipline or in academic and research communities, generally in proposing, performing, reviewing, or reporting research and creative activities. So anything you are violating research and publication ethics. So what is this fabrication? Fabrication is an intentional act of plagiarism. In this, somebody is making up data or results and recording or reporting them. Examples. In the social sciences, a researcher interviews completing a questionnaire for a fictitious subject that was never interviewed. In the biological sciences, the creation of data set for an experiment that was never actually conducted. The practice of adding fictitious data to a real data set collected during an actual experimental for the purpose of providing additional statistical visibility. In clinical research, the insertion of clinical note into the research record, and sometimes research has not been done at all. People are totally using fake data. There is an example. There is a IMTech CSIR lab in Chandigarh. There was a researcher who went to South Korea for some study. After returning from that, he talked to his supervisor that I have done some wonderful research and I would like to publish some paper based on the data. 7 articles were published using that data. Later, it was found that that research was never done by this gentleman. It was a fake data. So later, that student was terminated. Even supervisor was terminated because of he was also found irresponsible for not verifying the records. So this is a warning to supervisor. You may not be getting appreciation for good quality research, but you can be fired for wrongdoing in research of your student. Second is falsification. That is also intentional plagiarism, or it's a kind of academic fraud, research misconduct. In this, somebody is manipulating research materials, equipment, or processes, or changing or omitting, suppressing data or result without scientific or statistical justification, such that research is not accurately represented in the research record. So there is a various way of manipulating data, alteration of data to render modification of the variance in the data, falsification of dates and experimental procedures in the study notebook, misrepresenting the results from statistical analysis, misrepresenting the methods of an experiment such as the model used to conduct the experiment, the addition of false or misleading statement in the manuscript or published paper, falsification of research accomplished by publishing the same research result in multiple papers, misrepresentation of the materials or methods of a research study in a published paper, providing false statement about the extent of research study, falsification of telephone call attempts to collect data for a survey study. So there are a number of such manipulation which create issues in the research process. So in that way, this is called an intentional act of plagiarism. This is also a kind of academic fraud or a kind of intentional act of plagiarism. Now coming to the plagiarism, the word plagiarize is derived from Latin word to kidnap. So plagiarism is the act of stealing someone else's work and attempting to pass it off as your own work. This can apply to anything from term papers to photographs or songs or even audio, any kind of material. So this is something which is found in all form, printed, audio, video. Even plagiarism had different types. I talked about intentional plagiarism. Now I'm talking about unintentional or accidental plagiarism. What is this unintentional or accidental plagiarism? Using minimum or careless paraphrasing, failing to document or cite properly, quoting excessively. 60% of your paper is based on quotation. Where is the originality? Failing to use your own voice, may not know how to integrate ideas of others, may not know how to make notes properly, not familiar with international styles of documentation, taking the ideas of other writers and mixing them together, changing words in between. Sometimes we are not good in English. We have different mother tongues. So what we do? We try to copy the data from different sources and try to mix it and by changing some words in between. That is also not acceptable. That is also a kind of plagiarism. Many people do it. So mostly students found engaged in that. Another type of plagiarism is called self-plagiarism. UGC has already given a clarification that there is no difference between plagiarism and self-plagiarism. It is a plagiarism. So many people believe that this is my work, I can make use of it whenever I want, however, whatever I want. But this is not true. Your work is just a piece of paper. Your work is also just like other works. So you have to use all rules, regulations, and conventions and styles which you are doing in case of others. Uh, there is only one exception in case of self papers, self writing. A PhD student can include his or her research papers in his the PhD thesis, provided papers have been published during the period of the research on the topic of the research, and the researcher is the first author. So I repeat that only PhD student can use his papers. Otherwise, you have to make your papers properly cited, and you can use either by summarizing or paraphrasing or quotation. There is no other way to use your material again in your original new writings. Fine. So people do in various ways. Some people use as it is. Some people mix it up. Some people take multiple sources, aggregate it, mash it up. Sometimes people take a large amount from one single writing, some multiple writing from multiple authors. So there is a various ways of doing this kind of plagiarism. One A few more research ethics which are applicable and one should look into research and publication ethics is that maybe use a human subject in research, but you should be very careful while writing that you have followed or uh, like Nuremberg code. This is attempt to answer questions regarding guidelines for the use human subjects of research. And there is a various kind of ethical research board in various universities. So you need to properly take permission from those boards before using any human subject. And there are a number of guidelines in this code. Animal subject research, you can use animals, but uh, there are certain precautions or some kind of guidelines you have to follow. These are 3 R's very important in this. Refining experiments to cause uh, minimum damage or less pain or less stress uh, to uh, the animals. You should reduce the number of animals when you are using animals in the research. You should also replace the higher order animals with lower animal so that balance can be maintained. So there are certain rules, regulation, and that should be reflected in your research writings. If you are not properly, you can be in trouble. Besides, there are certain other guidelines or ethical issues which you can find on the National Institute of Health or National Science Foundation Research Code of Conduct. Like you cannot publish same paper in 2 journals. Somebody can say paper on different journal without telling the editors, and collaborations, consent of the data collector, trimming outliers from a data set, using inappropriate statistical techniques, bypassing the peer review system, conducting a review of literature that fails to acknowledge the contributors of the other people in the field of relevant prior work, stretching the truth on a grant application, stretching the truth on a job application, giving the same research project to 2 graduate students, overworking, neglecting or exploiting or failing to keep good research record, failing to maintain good research data, making derogatory comments and personal attacks, promising a student a better grade for sexual favors, using a racist epithet in the laboratory, making a various kind of deviation from research protocols approved by the institute, particularly in animal care and use of committee or institution review board for human subject. So this IRB, as I mentioned, is very important. Permission is required. Not reporting any adverse event in human research experiment, wasting animals, exposing any students and staff to biological risk, redacting manuscript for publication without even reading it, sabotaging someone's work, stealing some books or data, rigging is also not allowed, making unauthorized copies of data without permission. And also various kind of uh, uh, other deliberately doing things. So all these are also important for that. So now, one thing you should remember. So far, I have talked to you about various kind of research, publication ethics. So now you should be clear about it. That what are the various kind of research and publication ethics. Now let's talk about this plagiarism or any violation of any ethical guideline is not just a kind of ethical issue. Basically, these are considered a kind of offense or punishment is there. So penalties are there with all these kind of punishments, like penalties are there for both student and researchers, and penalties starting from the submission of research work to the revocation of the result or rescinding of the degree, and also termination from the job. There are extreme punishments are possible in this. There is no IPC under that this can be punished, but there are this can be taken up in infringement of Copyright Act. And all the punishments now in universities have to be in accordance with this UGC regulation, which I have already explained to you. I will show you some example. People at the highest level have been found engaged in that. This German education minister has to resign. Her PhD title was removed and thesis was cancelled because found plagiarized. Similarly, doctors in Gulf countries. This was the case I was referring to. IMTech, Chandigarh. Some student in Madras University, in Pune, University of Pune, affiliated college, some guides steal the work of other co-guides. Even people up to vice chancellor level has been found engaged. This person, gentleman, committed suicide. Then he found that his name is there in plagiarism, but he was not the guilty. He was one of the 11 authors on one paper, and one of the 8 on other paper, and both the papers were found plagiarized. And in this like this Grace, he committed suicide. So similarly, a MPhil student in Bhai Narmad South Gujarat University also committed suicide because her MPhil thesis was plagiarized. So it's not something which is just by warning or something. There are punishment for it. Publishers are aware of that. There are different kind of publishing professional bodies. There are two bodies. One is the Committee on Publication Ethics, which was established in 1997, and it has thousands, more than 10,000 members of this particular committee. Almost every publisher or editor is member of this. So this committee has certain guidelines and process to check plagiarism, pre-publication checking flow chart and post-publication checking flow chart. And on the basis of that, this committee has certain guidelines on plagiarism. If plagiarism is of minor nature and paper has been submitted, author is to be asked to rewrite paper. And paper has already been published, and if it is case is minor, author is to be asked to make corrections in it. If plagiarism is of major nature, by major plagiarism, in that case, submitted article has to be rejected, published paper has to be retracted. At the same time, the institute of the author is to be informed about this case. So this is a kind of punishment being taken in this according to the guidelines of COPE. But these guidelines, similarly, Balmi is having, this is a World Association of Medical Editors. It has number of guidelines. Quality of website should be good. Name of the journal should not be fancy. Peer review process should be good. ownership and management, governing body and editorial team, copyright and licensing, and all research and publication. So there are different guidelines by this World Association of Medical Editors also. So these two associations, has their guidelines, but publishers who are the member of these association, they have to follow these guidelines. And also, but in case of punishment, the publisher have also their guidelines. Like I mentioned, the UGC has drafted regulation. Now every university has to make its guideline, but these guidelines should be in the accordance with the university UGC guideline. Similarly, these guidelines of the publishers are in accordance with the guidelines by Cope and BAMI. So BAMI and Cope has given the guidelines, and basis of that, publishers take decision. In case of minor nature, they like suppose in case of this Springer Journal, if minor nature plagiarism, warning is given to author and make request to change and properly cite the original article. But if it is intermediate nature, article is rejected and author is forbidden to submit further articles for 1 year. If it is a severe nature, then paper is rejected and authors are forbidden to submit further articles for 5 years. So these are the various kind of guidelines followed by various publishers, Elsevier as also online. So this retraction is was on hike till 2015. From 2015, it is reducing. There are two reasons for that. Number one, now every publisher is aware of these policies and know that how to check the plagiarism. They have tools to check, so number of cases are being reduced because you cannot publish a plagiarized article in good publishing houses, but still you can publish in pedigreed journals and other things. So now I'm sure you have been given demo about Turnitin and Urkun. I will not take more time on this subject. These are the good softwares. I only want to tell you that when you see this similarity report, first of all, two things are important in plagiarism detection. One is that you should know what to exclude. Exclusion should be done, filter should be set up, like bibliography to be excluded, minor natures, coincidental birds which are common nature, and also you should know how to analyze this originality report. This originality report, which is having right side, is the similarities to your left side, your contents. So you have to really understand how to analyze these similarities. So in that case, if it is common knowledge, you can leave it. If it is similarity in case of research papers by a research paper, you can leave it. If it is wrong citation, correct it. If it is copying, then you should delete it and rewrite it, paraphrase it. So in that case, like all guidelines of the UGC regulations to be followed, and also I can tell you that all similarities may not be plagiarism, but any similarities can be plagiarism. And as per the UGC guideline, you cannot have more than 10% similarities. Images cannot be checked by any software. So if for images, mathematical formulas or tables, graphs cannot be checked. So you can use image detection software to check this. So now I'm coming to another important part of your presentation: how to avoid plagiarism. And these are few tips I would like to tell you. First of all, every university, like Delhi University, is having guidelines. Your university will also be having guidelines. So must read guidelines and simply be honest in writing. You should read carefully guidelines. And you should also attend various kind of research methodology workshop, instrumental courses, training in reference management tools like Mendeley and Node.Zotero. Anyone library orientation program must be attended. You should be part of author workshops and course technical writing skills. You should also learn how to write a good quality paper. That is very important for a researcher to learn a good quality paper. And get accounts in various kind of plagiarism detection softwares. You should be registered at ORCID. ORCID is must You should be, I'm sure you have been told about it. So you should register at ORCID. You should be part of research forums like Academia or ResearchGate that help in visibility and enhancing, like having more access to the research articles. And you should create a research diary or research notes. And I suggest you use software like Mendeley. Mendeley provide you a good research management tool, so you can create all your you can organize all your research in that. You should also be familiar with this all referencing terminology. What is citation? How do I cite sources? When do I need to cite? What is a bibliography? What is an annotated bibliography? What is difference between references and bibliography? What are endnotes? What are footnotes? What is difference between endnotes and footnotes? If I cite source in the footnotes or endnotes, how that is different from a bibliographic references? All these things should be known to you, because when you are making a citation, what is citation? Citation is basically rendering of bibliographic details of a reference which you have taken an idea or text, right? So, and there is this rendering is to be according to the different citation style. With different subject discipline, people have decided to have different citation style. Like humanities, there is MLA citation style, social sciences, IEEE, IACS, or in social sciences, APA, AAA. So according to this citation style, you have to make the kind of citation. And if you know Mendeley, if you know EndNote or Zotero, any such software, you need not to learn all these things. You can go for automatic citation. So when writing a paper, write after a good reading. You should be knowledgeable in your subject. No one expects you to write like an expert or a professional writer. You should, however, write like a serious, intelligent student or researcher, and cite all references in that. There is only 3 ways you can use other material: summarizing, paraphrasing, and quoting. There is no other way. So depending on the convention of your discipline, you may have to decide whether to. Scholars in the humanities tend to summarize, paraphrase, and quote texts. Social scientists and natural scientists primarily rely on summary and paraphrase, but it is not necessary. It can be either way. So when and how to summarize? When you summarize, you provide your readers with a condensed version of an author's key points. A summary can be as short as few sentences or much longer depending on the complexity of the text and the level of details you wish to provide your readers. So that way you should summarize. And after summarize also, you have to give a citation. What is next way of using other material is paraphrasing. Paraphrase is a restatement in your own words of someone else's ideas. By changing few words in between will not serve. It is considered plagiarism. So you have to rewrite the complete sentence in the original, in your writing, without changing the contents. And also you should keep it in mind, paraphrase phrases still require citation, because the idea comes from another source, even though you are putting them in your own words. Change the order and structure of the sentences. Use synonyms, a different form of the word. May change the voice or perspective. Third way of using other resources is quotation. But you should know about quotations. What is quoting? When to quote? How much to quote? How do I incorporate quotation in my papers? Quoting within quotes. How do I include long quotes in my papers? Single versus double quotation. Punctuating quotations. You don't require anybody's permission to quote, because right to quote is one of the copyright exceptions provided by the Verne Convention, Article 10. So you can quote whatever you want without any permission from author or publisher. When to quote? When you want to show that the actual language of the author is important for your reader. When you want to really plan to discuss the actual language of a text. When you are discussing an author's position of the theory and you plan to discuss the wording of a core assertion of kernel of the argument in your paper. Then you risk of losing the essence of author's ideas in translation from her words to your own word. When you want to appeal to the authority of the author and using his or her words will emphasize the authority. Only in such cases you should use quotation. How much to quote? Anything beyond 4 words you need to Cite a citation. A quote is enclosed in quotation marks for quotes up to 39 words. If you are using a quotation which is 40 or more words, it stands alone without quotation marks and is indented 5 spaces from the left margin. But remember, if you are using softwares like Mendeley or EndNote, they automatically take care of such rendering of the citation. Single versus double quotation. You should use double quotation marks when you are quote material from the source. If you are also quoting pages from that source that were quoted in the original source, use single quotation marks to indicate that original source contains the quotation. In the system of punctuation used in the United States, periods and commas go inside quotation marks, except when used in text citation. In these cases, period and commas goes outside the quotation marks. Now, there is one thing which need not to be cited, that is called common knowledge, a well-known fact, information that is likely to appear in various sources and to be familiar to large number of people. Something you are sure this is the common knowledge, people know about it, you need not to cite. But very careful, if you have any doubt, you should cite it. Example of common knowledge, like smoking can cause respiratory diseases such as emphysema and cancer. So this may have repeated several times, so you need to cite. When you do some assignments and assign practical tasks in a group, sometimes you need to write a single piece of work or sometimes separate reports. But in all cases, you need to give credit to all the collaborators. This I have already explained that you can include your research papers for research paper published for the research done during the period of research on the topic of the research. But remember, these research papers cannot be included when you are publishing thesis as a book. Okay. So now the last part of my presentation, how to publish, where to publish, what to publish, what not to publish. It is important when you decide to publish an article, you should have a proper criteria to evaluate a journal. And how to judge the quality of a journal. Good quality editorial board. What is the aim and scope of the journal? It is matching with your article. Stature of the journal in the field, average peer review system, track record, citation. Actually, time is now less. I cannot talk more about. I need a full-fledged time, at least 1 hour to speak on this topic. So I just want to give you the glimpses. If you have not, if your college want at any point of time, I can speak on this topic. I'm just showing what is important for you to know. It is also important to know duplicate and redundant publishing. It is also important to know simultaneous publishing. It is also important to know SLAMI slicing or SLAMI publication. What is ghost writing and various kind of publication models, open access models, gold, green, and other publication models. And how to identify what is a predatory journal. How to identify a predatory journal? How common are predatory journals? Publishing models like traditional or open access, and what is difference between predatory and open access journal? How to check is the journal is quality journal? Various kind of ways of tips for identification of predatory journals. This is number of website how to check publishing in predatory journals, finding a good quality open access journals, and also what are cloned journals, and how to decide how to check suitability of your article using various kind of journal site. This is something very important. But now it's already more than 1.5 hours, almost. This topic also required over an hour talk, so I'm sure, and it might have been covered in your talk, your course. So if it is required any other point of time, I may think of delivering a talk on this topic. But just to make you aware that you should also know about all those things. So with these words, I thank all my authors of my sources which I have used in presentation. Our presentation has been prepared mainly to create an awareness about plagiarism, research misconduct, and other things. Plagiarism is form of theft, so it need to be seriously taken care. It should be prevented at all levels, and we also need to have strict discipline, academic discipline at college level, university level, and research institute level, and also at national level. It can be reduced by proper awareness. It has been done. So proper counseling, training, and awareness is very important. So with these, I just want to close and will come to the studio screen to take up if you have any further questions. Thank you very much for your patience hearing, and I look forward to having questions with all of you. So now over to Dr. Josh for any further comments, questions. I'm ready to.
So there are questions on the screen. You can answer them.
So there's a question. The PhD student can include the contents of published paper in his or her thesis. Can you clarify? Okay. So rule is that during your period of the research, you are supposed to publish minimum 2 papers. So if you have published any number of papers during the period of the research on the topic of the research, and you are the first author, you can include these papers in thesis. It is allowed. Any similarities to these papers has to be excluded from the similarities. It will be other than the 10%. So there is no problem. But if you want to publish this thesis later as a book, that time you cannot keep those papers. So in that case, only issue is that if you have transferred the copyright to any publisher, you need to inform them. Generally, nobody say no to that. So because thesis is not considered a public domain document. So I think, is that clear to you? Yes, you have to disclose when you are using your research papers. You have to provide a complete citation along with the declaration that this paper was published in so and so journal, and it is being reproduced as a part of as it was part of thesis. So you have to give a complete citation, reference, as well as you have to declare in your chapter in footnote that this was published. Like suppose you are making a chapter based on that article. So you can or either in footnotes or endnote, you have to mention that this paper was published in so and so journal, along with citation and reference list. Yes, Bina. Yes, Savita. Best resources for literature reviews for research sector. Savita, it depends upon your subject. Like your librarian is the best person to guide you to what are the best resources for literature review. But generally, you should use the indexing tools like Scopus, Web of Science, and because first you should look for this detail from a comprehensive and complete indexing or bibliographic database in your subject. Suppose if you are a chemistry student, so then you can use the any kind of bibliographic database in that area. If you are a science student, SciFinder can be, Scopus can be there, Web of Knowledge can be there. So first look for the references. What are the, by using multiple criteria or choosing multiple operators. First have the references and then look for the complete full text article for further reference. Basically, I will tell you, there are various kind of search engines in various disciplines. You can use Google to look for, suppose you want to know, you are a biologist. So look for academic search engine on Google in your area of interest. So you will come out with a list of those academic search engines. But there are certain things which are like, first I will suggest use the all academic databases. That is the first thing to use. In case of deep web search, I have given you list of some journals. You can search deep web search engines in various disciplines. But it also depends which area you are. Like Google Scholar is very good for overall for general researcher. Google is not good for academic and search research, but Google Scholar is good. Similarly, there are various kind of search engines, open access search engines as well as. So those search engines should be properly known to the researcher in the field. Generally, when you ask your librarian or your person, your seniors, they will tell you which are the good search engines in that, or even you can search on in Google. Yes. Authorship is always the person who has contributed significantly to that particular writings. Like take example of PhD thesis. It is not mandatory that your guide should be a co-author. It is up to you to decide that guide is to be there or not. You can have single authorship paper also. If you are using any co-authors, please ensure that co-author should have significant contribution in that particular. Without, like suppose somebody is just giving you some comments or editorship, some kind of language editing and other things, he or she cannot be author. You can acknowledge their work, but you cannot give authorship to them. So author is something who has significantly contributed to a research writing. Only that person can be author.
Dear Ramesh sir and dear participants, dear Mr. Sanjo, I think the questions are over. The participants can ask the questions directly to Professor Ramesh sir by email. Is it possible, sir? Yeah. So today's session was very wonderful, and he has given importance points for a sincere research. And the major point was he mentioned the research misconducts, and the way in which he explained the subject was very extraordinary. He mentioned the UGC directions on plagiarism policy. All the researchers have to understand the plagiarism policy at the time of their research. Also, he spoke on UGC regulations, different year UGC regulations, and he pointed out quality of research has to be ensured in our all the. Also, he pointed out that library is the integral part of research, and he mentioned deep research and dark research, and he emphasized that a researcher should be a good searcher, and he says that library is the integral part for a good researcher. Experience, he says that researchers should learn how to follow ethical rules. So we have to understand ethical rules. He has displayed some ethical rules, and we have to understand in deep level. And he also mentioned some areas of research and publication ethics that was also very important for the researcher. And at last, not last but one, as a another module, he mentioned briefly about plagiarism, fabrication, and falsifications. And he also given tips to avoid this type of plagiarism, fabrication, and falsifications. Last, he has given ideas of how to publish the techniques involved in publication. So, sir, I feel this was a very wonderful session, and it includes many ideas. We have to get a detailed session on different topics in your talk, and we are expecting in future. And anyway, we shall contact you, sir, for a detailed discussion, because you have mentioned various type of important concepts, but we have to understand these concepts in detail. So, we expecting in future also your support. And on behalf of the St. Thomas College Thrissur, I thank you, sir, for spending a lot of time with the researchers of this area, St. Thomas College and from Kerala. There are several researchers from Kerala, and there are several researchers from out of Kerala. They are all in the beginning stage, and they have to qualify a course on research and publication ethics, as you mentioned in the beginning of the slides. So I think this will be very useful to them for understanding many concepts. Okay, thank you very much, sir. And
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure, and thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So look forward to again. Okay, bye bye.
Bye bye, sir.
Can I leave the studio now? That's fine.
Yes, sir. Yes.